The meeting has been called to order. The first item of business is the approval of the December 12 minutes.
I move to approve the December 12 minutes.
Second.
Oh, wait, you're an alternate.
I cannot do that.
You can't do that.
I'll move to accept the December 12th minutes.
Second.
David seconds. Any comments or discussion? I have a question, which is a substantive question. On page 3, you talk about the Grassy Hill Road Bridge and Culvert Project currently has $950 in the fund. There's a $345 grant that had the latest bidding deadline of December 2021. I'm sure that I know the answer somewhere in my brain, but I've forgotten it. What is the status of that purportedly expired deadline?
It's kind of an incorrect statement. The grant expired in 2021, so we
Okay.
don't have it anymore.
Oh, so it's gone.
It's gone.
Well, we could reapply.
We can reapply.
Okay, so the sentence is accurate but disappointing.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, then a couple of little things from me on page 4. The first word that reads HE should have a T in front of it. And Ms. Shoemaker's name on the second line should have a capital S. Those are my only comments.
Looks fine to me.
What was your first one?
Oh, just the first sentence on page 3 begins he compensation, where it should be the compensation.
That's corrected on the one I have.
Oh, is it really?
Mine is correct.
Yeah, mine says the compensation committee.
Okay, I don't know where I got mine. That's fine. Are there any other comments or discussion? Then there's been a motion made and seconded to accept the minutes. Let me call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Those folks who weren't at the meeting should probably abstain if there was any. But I guess we were all at the meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. The next order of business is the financial report. Anita, why don't you come join us, and you can walk us through the reports, or whatever comments you have.
I got that.
Really was nothing. What I saw is revenue is up, as you can see, is up for the month of December 2022, and it's approximately overall up 6.23 compared to last year. Last year at this time, there was nothing showing under tax collector's deposit. So that is the reason why the revenue was up 30.99 just the month of December of last year. But again, it's up overall 6.23 compared to December of last year at this time with everything. Again, you'll see interest is up. We're still getting a nice return on our bank account. It's like 5.1. Probably go down soon, but right now the market is still up there, so we're still getting a good return on our money. Expenditures are up overall 1.01 over December of 2022, approximately 3.24 overall. But we're still, our percentage of our budget is still under 50% overall for expenditures.
Anita, let me ask you have the general fund interest number here. Do you know what instrument is it invested in?
What's for bank? Webster Bank.
But is it just like in a savings account?
Treasury
No,
bill.
It's in a high yield. It's in a high yield account.
Money market.
Yeah, it's a high yield. It's,
Wait, so it's a
Webster-
money market account that
Webster calls
fluctuates
it a
from
mirror
day
account.
to day?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there is a ton of dough. We got the special accounts as well, and
Well, all of
so,
that rolls into one. It's called a MIRA, M-I-R-A account. Basically, every account we have, I know that all this rolls into one number, but it is broken out, because you'll also see on the reports that I do give you for each fund, they're also accumulating a high amount of interest.
so
So
that,
it is broken down according to percentage of what they have in the bank.
but to, I think where BJ's interest probably lies is, it's a very, very short-term. Money market can fluctuate every day. If
No,
we're
they're
gonna-
guaranteeing us right now, the way that they have it, we were at 4.25 when I got here, and speaking with Laura from Webster, they put us in at 5.1 currently,
Right, but
sitting.
it is money market, and so
Right.
it's not a 5-year fixed rate. instrument.
No, it's not a fix, and right now, we did do a fixed rate of a $3 million with TD Bank, and they gave us only for 90 days 5.22. If we went longer than 90 days, it dropped to under 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we picked the 90, and we were going to take the chance, because it's, I'm sure, not going to be, it'll probably be still in the high 4, so we still made out better in those 90 days, keeping it at the 5.22.
But for a very short period of time. So if we've got, at any one time,
Call it $20 million.
And I think,
in all of the funds,
right.
and we're not going to touch it for 5 years,
One alternative is, if we're not going to touch $10 million for 5 years, to potentially lock that in a 5-year.
Right, but they're not giving you a very good market rate on a 5-year. Like I said, they're giving it at a 90-day rate.
yeah. But there are other
those
instruments. Yeah.
You have to go out, you
So
have
it's
to go out and decide at that. Right
Yeah.
now, the rate we're getting is very good, but it is something to look at when the rates start coming down a little bit to see where we can get a better rate.
Yeah,
Treasury bonds and treasury bills.
But
Treasury notes
David
are all-
is asking exactly the right question in terms of balancing a lower interest rate for a longer locked-in term. If we could predict with accuracy what's going to happen with rates, and we could make a perfect decision. Obviously, you can't do that, but it's a decision that has to be made. So my question is, who makes the decision? Who helps you decide? Does the treasurer?
The treasurer.
Okay.
And I know that Matt is looking into it. He did send me an email. Again, as you all know, I've only been here 4 months. I am still putting out fires, you will know. And I can't even explain.
But it is the treasurer's responsibility, though, for...
So I can only do so much at once.
yeah, no.
Yeah, but
I remember Mike Ryder looking into
And I know that
all
Matt
of this,
is.
and that there were certain rules around which types of accounts we could invest in.
Absolutely. It's statutory, but it does include treasury notes, bills,
Right.
and bonds,
Right.
which is way better than what Webster's going to give you.
But I hear the good news is that Matt and Anita are theoretically on top of it. They're considering these and supposedly making, informed decisions about the best place to. Because you're right, it's $20 million. It's not just a portion
Yeah.
that we can earn interest on.
And it goes to some comments that we'll get to that I've got on...
potential financing for the senior center and how
Okay.
that could be constructed.
Thank you, Anita. So I'm sure everybody spent a lot of time looking through the financial information that came by email a week or two ago. Does anybody have any questions or comments about them? I have a few.
And also one other thing, with the higher amount in your bank account, you also eliminate fees. The lower you get in a bank account, then you're going to start accumulating fees, because that also wipes out your fee on your analysis.
Excuse me, BJ, it's Anna.
Hi, Anna.
I did not receive anything via email. So if somebody could check my email address, that would be great. It has an F in the middle of it between my first name and my last name, and that's been frequently dropped off somehow.
So would it have your name on it?
Her email's correct on here. Yeah.
It was probably 2 weeks ago, Anna. Remember, last week's meeting was postponed. So
Did it come from Michelle?
Yes.
I did not receive it.
Yeah,
I received January, but I mean December, but I did not receive the January financials.
Okay.
Well, this
So we'll certainly correct that.
it is December's.
But I also want to raise this question. So they came by electronic mail, not by hard copy? And is that a decision? I would prefer that they be given to everybody by mail in hard copy.
I prefer email. I was going to say, I don't mind getting an electronic copy, but I do not have a great printer at home, so I don't mind looking at it ahead of time electronically, but would love a printout.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's exactly my point. I do
Yeah.
have a printer, and I printed everything out. In the absence of having hard copy, you can't make notes and remember
Right.
what your comments are. And it seems to me, rather than having everybody individually have to print out the financials, the
Right.
town should send them out.
Yeah, I'm fine with avoiding the postage and all of that to mail them to our homes, but
How about the compromise of emailing them and bringing a printed copy with us, so we don't have to,
Yeah.
we don't have the $3 postage for each one time.
Well, that's
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
say.
It is $3 times 9, $27 a month, which isn't a big part of our budget. The problem with that is when you go through it and make notes, you can't make notes on an electronic copy, right? At least for me. In any event, I would like there to be paper copies mailed to everybody.
Solution, put more money in your postage budget and it will be done.
You can do that.
do that.
You can vote on that.
The way it's always been done in the past, and we'll just go back to what we did a month ago.
Having said that, we tend to bring additional hard copies of the financials to this meeting, which I think becomes unnecessary. In other words, if you mail them to everybody, it behooves us to bring our copies, and we don't need.
So if we mail everything to you,
Yep.
we'll have 1 or 2 extra copies on hand, but we're not making 8.
Well, that's fine.
that's fine.
That's what I'm
That's what I
saying.
just said.
Great.
So how many pages are typically needed? Print out?
It's about 20.
Oh, okay.
Double-sided, I
Well,
think.
we can do, front and back.
Yeah,
No,
We
it's
can do
not.
front and back.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Good.
usually done.
that'll cut the
Yeah.
paper in half.
Yeah,
Well, I do it one-sided, so it's when she scans it,
yeah.
because when you do it, it's,
I don't know how it comes out scanned, but when I copy it, it's front and back because of
okay.
try to alleviate that.
We
So
will
we are
work.
going to send them,
Lighten it up a little bit.
we are going to send them.
Double-sided.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I give it
Yeah,
one,
counts
stick it in there, it's easier.
Big chunks.
I've always mailed in
That people
past,
Yeah.
save the postage.
No, I'd prefer to, I didn't get the email either, so I didn't have it.
So you still.
I used one at the library.
Oh, no, yeah, Diane's on. I didn't get anything.
Had
Did you get them?
16.
I don't remember.
With
No.
So
I have 2 things.
Yeah, my,
But that's it.
That's the same with me,
I
Doc.
got the cancellation and I got this, the roster.
okay, we're gonna, like,
Been there till like
14,000 or something like that.
We can resend anything to everybody tomorrow, that if you didn't get it, we'll resend it. So just let Michelle know if you did not get the report, the Board of Finance report.
I would just mail every.
But it
No,
doesn't
but-
cost anything
You
to email.
can email,
Tomorrow, you need to email.
yeah.
Fred
And for next month, if we can get the,
And
and Anna. Anna needs it. Who else didn't get it?
well,
basically-
easier for her to send it to everybody.
Just send it to everybody.
But because several people haven't received it, I want to postpone discussion of these financials until our next meeting.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Remember, your next meeting is budget.
we
Yeah.
can still put this on the agenda.
I know, just depending.
But
on how
there's just no point in discussing something that people haven't seen. So that's the financial report. That brings us to new business. The next item on new business is the financial system upgrade that
Okay.
Anita will tell us
This
about.
one is, it's small, and then I do cross some shut out. There's some copies, I don't know if everybody needs a copy or can share. I can go make more copies if I have
I can
to.
share over there.
I can make more
We
copies.
share? And then, I've seen it. Last on with Matt.
Want me to make a few more copies then?
Very small, I don't think I can.
Yep, actually, probably.
Which depends on which one I go with the glasses.
We'll make a few more copies.
About 4 more?
That's 5.
So while it...
Anita, you stay and start to discuss. I'll go make.
Here.
Somebody give me.
All right, I know.
I'll be right back.
I know what I'm talking
Just be right back.
Well, here, you can use that. I know what I'm talking about. Okay. If you look at this, if you look at the breakout, all this is a comparison. When I came here, one of the things that was discussed was going outsourcing payroll. Now, we brought in 3 vendors. Then it was also brought to me that we're going to need a new financial system because the system is, BMSI is going away. They were bought out by G-Works. So they asked me, because I just, in my last position, put in Munis. So I did get prices from Munis. I called them up. As you'll see, their prices for financial and payroll was, I believe, like $140,000 just for conversion costs, plus an additional $30,000 a year for fees. That's a 5-year contract. Without payroll, it dropped down to, I believe it was like 70. If I remember correctly. I haven't looked at this in a while. Right here, it's Munis. Munis was 66.95 for conversion and $25,000 a year. And if
you have an extra.
down here, there we go.
Thank you.
If we stay with,
Thank you,
if we go with
Shoemaker.
the upgrade, which is BMSI to G-Works, it's approximately, like $20 under $10,000. And basically they do have an HR package that people can do their time cards, and it will track vacation, sick, and everything on the system. So after talking to Matt, we did discuss this, and basically we're willing to do we wanted to do the $10,000 package, the G-Works upgrade. It's a web-based platform, and give it a try for about a year. And at that time, if it's not working, then we can go elsewhere. But if it works, if you look at all the different options, it's the least costly to the town.
And most compatible with what we've got.
Right, and the upgrade, they'll do our upgrade for free.
Yeah.
They'll do the conversion. All the conversions will be for free. I did talk about how to finance it. In what I found is the budget final 5-year capital that was dated 4/7/2023. There was approximately $8,000 allocated for next year towards a BMSI upgrade. And also for the last 22, 23, and 23, 24, and 21, 22, there has been $5,000 put into the IT budget for miscellaneous that has not been spent. So I would like to propose that we use it to spend $10,000 on BMSI, and then the $8,000 next year, of course, I wouldn't take, and that would go back into the fund to reimburse it or to do whatever else you would like to do.
Did we carry that IT money over?
Yes,
From
it's
last
in the
year?
IT fund. It's in a separate fund.
It's actually
Fund
so
25.
it's not even carryover.
It's a
That's in the
transfer.
fund, okay.
So I'm feeling even denser than usual. You're talking about a $10,000 BMSI upgrade.
It's called G-Works now. It'll be called G-Works. It's the new company.
Okay, G-Works. And what's the relationship between that and the $120,000?
That's Munis. The 120 is
So
Munis, a whole different
So we don't want to do that.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the one that after talking to Matt, to do that, I mean, it's a big commitment. It's a big commitment. It's usually a year to 2 year project to put everything in place.
And Anita just did it in her.
I just did it in my prior, so I went live with everything, and the whole town was converted.
But you're saying that with the $10,000 BMSI upgrade, you'll be happy. In other words, you think that will make the system work
We're gonna give it a try. We're gonna give it a try, and, at 10,000, it's pretty much not that much more than what you actually pay yearly anyway for the software you currently have. So, we think that it should work here. I talked to Matt and I talked to Tracy, payroll AP, and we just did today, we were on a call with them for about an hour. They did a demo for a lot of people, and it seems that it's an upgrade to what we have, and we think that it should be able to work.
So I'll move to approve $10,000. Is that the amount?
$10,000.
$10,000 to be expended out of the IT fund for software upgrades for the finance department.
I'll second that.
So, any discussion? And the first question that I'll ask is whether the Board of Selectmen is on board with this.
We did. We approved it.
Okay.
Yes, it already passed.
So just so I'm clear, we're doing G-Works instead of using like ADP or Paychex or somebody?
Right, because if you notice the different prices there too, just to use ADP was almost $18,000, and that was the lesser of all.
And that's a per year cost, and this G-Works is
approximately a yearly, and there's
Okay.
going to be hidden costs, I'm sure, but that's basically what we have. We based it on how many employees we had last year, and because it goes by how many employees per pay, and then the other company was per month, so we had to round it and do some, but ADP was the cheapest. The one thing about ADP is if you go to outsourcing, which after I was looking for something and I came across at one time the town did outsource and took it back. The outsourcing, when you have a 4-day work week, if people don't hand in them time cards that first day, you probably will not get paid on time because you have they need it at least 2 to 2.5 days prior to payday to get you paid on time. So it's right now, with the bank, you have a little bit more leeway when it's yourself. Also, going to ADP, basically, you enter everything in yourself anyway. The only thing they do is the end process, and they file your taxes. So, after doing an analysis and talking to Tracy and talking to Matt, we didn't think at this time the town would benefit that much by outsourcing payroll. It didn't seem like it was going to save as much as we originally thought or make the process that much simpler for us here. Because you still need the person for the data entry. You still need, basically, you're not doing the stuffing at the end. And, you're not going to do the W-2s at the end of there. Is that?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion or comments? Then take a vote. All in favor of Dave's motion to appropriate $10,000 for the upgrade in the words that he articulated, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you all. So, Anita, you're back on stage with Martha with the 2024 budget initial overview. This is a work in progress.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's working. Let's keep going.
All right. This is what I found. This is what you got last year. I can't tell you. So learning what was given and what wasn't given, and what. Look, as you can see, the numbers. I have almost all the numbers. There are a couple beach associations that I'm waiting for their final paperwork, and a couple of donations. pretty much after that, and then there was a couple that were waiting to set their rate, but Kerma didn't set their rate yet, but they told me if I budgeted with a 5% increase on their policies, that was more than enough. So there are a few of them, when you see more of the detail, that if they did not have a fixed budget number that was presented to me, they gave me the percentage to use that would say no more than. So, and then where it comes to transfers, the numbers that you're going to see there are paperwork I found that says final next year, so I just put a placeholder in there. I will work on that part, so that's where those numbers come from.
These numbers also have not been all approved by the Board of Selectmen. We will do our final approval on February 5th, and Anita will plug in our final numbers and have it ready for you on the 6th.
So did the numbers basically reflect the request that each department has submitted?
Correct.
With a little vetting by the Board of Selectmen or not much?
What's going to happen is...
this piece of paper, do these numbers reflect any adjustments by the Board of Selectmen?
A few tweaks here and there, but not anything substantial at this point in time, because we haven't really had the public discussion that we need to have on some of these requests, especially when we talk about a lot of people who have requested full-time assistance in their departments.
No, fair enough, but just to orient us, this is the ask.
These are the asks, yes. There were a couple that were adjusted from the original that I got, but that was the ones that, for people that came into the meetings that we have had, that mutually agreed with the council that says, oh yeah, we could drop my number. So them are the ones that have been adjusted.
Let me ask Anita, Regional District number 18, I think I saw something in the news like 2 hours ago about their budget. Is this number, the 28,249, the proposed budget? Is that accurate?
It's our portion of the proposed budget. We took that number from today, and Anita applied the percentage that we're currently paying and put it into this budget.
Okay.
The current percentage we're paying as of what we paid this current year is 0.8128.
I'm sorry, that I said 28. It's 29,315 for the next fiscal year.
The town's portion is
of 36 million.
But if that proportion is the same, the increase was 0.6%, I think. That's what I read in the paper. 0.6% was the overall increase for the school budget.
That's the number. I took the number that they gave Martha, and I multiplied it by 81.2.
Which is what so if the proportion is the same, then it should be 0.6% unless that's different. But what could also make a difference is the October numbers versus
That's exactly
April
what
numbers.
I told her.
And so, did we use, because the student proportion October 1st would be different than April of last year when we set that 81.28%. So,
well, I told her that in April we were going to get a new percentage.
Right. Well, but I think my understanding of Dave's question is whether this number reflects an increase in our percentage of student population.
No, that's the percentage currently right now. The bills that we are paying this fiscal year, I took basically our portion divided by how much their total was asking, and the percentage was 81.28%.
So you kept the same percentage, but then to Dave's point, if you heard 0.6% as opposed to 3.95%, there's a question.
Yeah, it's just
a question. It is what it is.
I won't know in early April. I mean, the percentage, the student count percentage is the average of October 1st and April 1st.
Right.
So if this number is the 81%, was that the October or last April's number, or the average of our current year's budget?
It would have been October.
See, that number is irrelevant. The October number is irrelevant. It's really, I think for us to compare apples to apples, you should use the percentage that was last April 1st, or the average last April 1st. So it's comparing the overall budget of Region 18 that, as David said, it's going up 0.6%, then that would be the snapshot in time. Because the October 1st student population number doesn't mean anything by itself,
We can change that.
right? Because it's average of October 1st and April 1st. So, I don't know.
Yeah, a couple other, just presentation-wise, we got principal and interest, we've got capital, and we've got school budget, which drives everything, like it does everywhere. So maybe it would be helpful to have total operating expenditures at the town level to say, hey, they're up 2%, or they're up, 40% or whatever for the operations of the town.
Okay.
And then everything else, I mean, capital goes up and down, and that can be kind of crazy. So,
Well,
that's what's in our
that's the
control.
piece that we
We have
can
no
get.
control over
But
Region
to your point, David, if you look at the increase allocable to the school district of $1,066,000 and the total of $1,002,000, the town's portion is quite de minimis.
But capital is down $600,000.
Well, there is that.
So
Well, and
that's
we-
why those three kind of big categories
Yeah.
would be important.
We haven't heard all of our capital projects yet either, so that's not all in here.
Well, that makes sense. So we want to know operating, capital, and school stated separately.
Okay.
Anna, for your benefit, you don't have a copy of this in front of you.
I don't.
Right. The proposed budget for 23-24 is $41,026,000. That's this year, and for the next year, it's $41,750,000.
Okay.
Actually, I don't see why that's a difference of $1,002,000. That number doesn't make
Something's not
sense.
carrying over correctly, Anita.
It's okay. We got the tool here.
Yeah.
We just refine it. So
There's stuff missing anyway, so it really doesn't mean
It's a glance.
to know.
Thanks, DJ.
You're welcome.
We can send this to you tomorrow, Anna, so you can look at it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion concerning this preliminary overview? I will comment that I and others on this committee have attended with Martha and Anita a couple of relatively lengthy meetings with department folks, and I think they've gone well and will significantly simplify the work that the Board of Finance has to do because we're going to be vetting numbers that have already been vetted as opposed to getting just kind of raw input from the departments.
I have one question about salaries, because that was always something we would talk about at these meetings that we've been having. In terms, so is that using the same numbers that we were looking at before?
The salaries committee has met once, and we are going to have to address this again. And the Board of Finance the Board of Selectmen all have the salary study that we received at the end of middle of second week of January. So we have not voted on the salary schedule yet, but we did do one meeting with the salary committee. Andrew was on by phone, David was there, CJ was there, and we discussed it with Anita so that they have an understanding of it. The Board of Selectmen has not voted to approve it yet.
Okay. But these numbers here reflect the same salary numbers that we were looking at these other budget workshops?
With the budget workshop, yes.
But Anita, you included a 2.5. I think you said you went up 2.5.
Included the step, because that was what Randy Frank said, use a step, because she said she didn't know what we were going to do this year. If they were going to adjust this year's and then next year's. So she said her mention was just to use next year's step. There's many options for the salary committee to decide.
But what I'm hearing is that, again, for this preliminary paper, the salary numbers that are embedded here include a step increase for the employees that are entitled to one, but no inflation increase. Is that what you're saying?
An inflation increase number has not been given.
Fair enough. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that for purposes of this, it includes a step increase, but they're going to be understated, the salary component, because they don't yet include a cost of living increase.
Well, we also have to remember that Randy Frank's salary study, she did a 9-step salary study versus our 6-step. So in that 9-step salary study, everyone received a step because people had been on step 6 for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody should have gone up a step. And we are currently have to vote because Tim had told staff that they would receive retroactive their salaries back to July 1st once the salary study was concluded. So we've done some preliminary numbers with that, and I think we were at about 22.
That was only for half the year, because they...
Well, I know, but I meant to get them up, it'd be to about a $22,000 paycheck going out to bring them up to core and then start fresh on the next salary, next pay period.
Does everybody understand what Martha just said? That the step increase, which would normally have kicked in on July 1st, was postponed by Tim pending the completion of the salary study. And when the salary committee met, we were of the view that increase should be made retroactive to July 1st so that the lost money would be paid in a lump sum to folks.
That has not been voted on by the Board of Selectmen as of this time.
And that will essentially affect all employees.
It will. Except
for the unions.
Except for the contracted police department.
Because they've already gotten theirs.
Because they've already gotten theirs, because they have a contract.
Okay, got it. Okay.
All right, good. The next item is the senior center financing options. Again, Anita and Martha.
We're rolling tonight.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen voted to recommend to the Board of Finance for our salary senior center financing. David, can I just look at this for a second? Thanks. That we would like to take $2 million from people and finance the rest, which equates to $1,313,193. Anita had provided us with a 3-year and a 4-year loan opportunity to pay back over the next 3 to 4 years. With the rates that are at the bottom of the page, Board of Selectmen opted that you could decide on which rate you would prefer. And there may be some other options that you would like to look into, but I also would like to let you know that there will be some fundraising going on by Mr. Lam and myself at our letter, and anything we've sort of tentatively agreed, anything that comes from those people that live in Lyme will go towards the Lyme portion. Anything received from people in Old Lyme will go towards ours, and anything from corporate will be divided in half. Because we will be working with those corporations together to see if we can get some funding.
So, Martha, I've heard a few numbers about our total surplus thrown out. $2 million is what percent of our total surplus?
Okay.
So, how much surplus do we actually have? I've heard a few numbers.
The second line, Matt, is $12,131 is the number, and I think isn't that what was in the annual report yesterday?
Yeah, it's approximately right now. When the auditors do close, we're going to roughly be close to 30%. So by taking $2 million, it would drop you down to approximately 25%.
Which is still very healthy.
Of the budget.
The total
Of
budget.
the total.
And that's remarkably high among
Right, and the
state,
normal-
towns
and-
across the state.
Right, and if you read most things that they say 15% is very healthy. Some say you should have 2 months of operating costs is considered healthy. There isn't a definite, that is more your choice here. And so it would be your choice to make.
But
Well, one of the things-
30% and even 25%
is very healthy.
very high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very healthy.
And one of the reasons we've strived to have that level is if a storm hit the coastline and we lost tax homes that are taxed, they may not be taxed because there's no home there. And so that would be lost revenue that we may need to. We've asked that question almost every year of the different auditors that have been here, and one of the last ones first said, yeah, you have too much, but then he restated it and said, no, you've got the shoreline, and you could need that money if a storm came through and wiped out 5 $1 million houses.
Of course, we could.
That's an interesting clarification of that, because I had always heard that it was tied to the shoreline.
That's why.
But the other piece about the taxation clarifies it, because I had always thought, well, if we're hit by a huge storm, $10 million really isn't going to make a big difference.
FEMA's going to come in or something,
But it's gonna make a
but
difference.
it's lost revenue.
So that additional information.
That could be years for somebody to rebuild their home. And then they'll still have to pay taxes on the property.
Right.
But that's minuscule compared to the home.
Most of the homes that are waterfront, their property is more valuable than the structure on
But even so, a 25
on the
Look at
land.
their tax bill.
but a 25% is
Yeah, it wouldn't take much.
Well, but fair enough, and thank you for articulating the rationale.
Yeah.
What the rationale indicates in terms of what the surplus should be is a judgment call,
yes.
right?
Correct.
And I think the consensus, and I assume you might share it, is that we don't need 12 million.
I think we should use our surplus for things like this, just as we did with the library, for our portion of that and other projects in town.
Right.
I think that's...
So I know a question, go ahead, Diane.
I was just going to ask a question. Do we have any information as far as what this percentage is for other shoreline communities?
I bet they're lower.
I would say that they're
I
probably
think we have, as Candace said, I think we have probably one of the highest percentage-wise surpluses.
usually it's probably about a 50.
In the state.
Okay, so about the statewide average, that's different than a shoreline average.
Yeah.
That's
Are you looking at Stonington and Saybrook and,
I don't know.
Madison?
right. That's my only
I think
question.
one of the other things to look at in Old Lyme is a higher percentage of our property tax revenue is residential, whereas a lot of these other communities have commercial,
Absolutely.
which are away from the shoreline. Like
Typically.
Saybrook has a lot more commercial property, and Stonington does too. So it's hard to put a...
Stonington's whole point in Stonington Borough is
Right.
mostly residential.
Right.
Yeah.
But Stonington's much larger than that, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's physically, so compared to the taxes that come from our shore area.
footprint.
But it's a good question, and I don't have the answer. It is certainly true that we're way higher than the average across the state in terms of the subset of shoreline communities. I don't know, but I'm confident that it's not this high, that we are the highest. The question that I have isn't whether we ought to put $2 million into this, but whether we should do so without also considering other capital projects that are on the horizon in the next year or two. And I don't have those in my head. I think that you guys may...
Well, you got Grassy Hill Road Bridge, you've got sewers, you've got
Halls Road.
Halls Road, you've got increased costs for fire apparatus that, we're not, even though we save for that, those costs have gone up faster than what we were saving for. So
And a 48-month delay on getting the fire apparatus once they place the order.
which means we might have a little more time to pay for it. And our share of the $57 million project across the street.
And that's what, That's what I was gonna say, is that this, if you pay this way, you can always refinance, and then you put everything into a bond and do a longer note. And it would be, you just roll everything up into one. But you'd wait till you have all these different projects instead of doing multiple ones and going out to bond.
Yeah, that was the question that I had, because these are not municipal bond rates, right? 4.6 and 4.5?
No, that's Webster, currently Webster, but what I would do is, if this is the way you want to go, I'm going to call to other banks, and I'm going to also find other banks
But those are banks, so the municipal bond, and I don't know the answer to this, I mean, it's a small issue, but if you're talking $3 million, 10-year municipal bond rates right now about 3%. So if we can get 10-year rates that are 4.5% to 5%, why would we take that out of our surplus? Why wouldn't we finance at 3% and make a 2% spread? That's a question that is, again, not an alternative that's presented to us. We have one alternative that's being presented to us right now. There's also a liquidity issue, too. And if that's not the case, if that's not available to us, then cross it off, right? If the only thing that's available to us is Webster or another bank that's pretty similar, which is probably the case, then it could be $2 million, it could be $1 million, $3 million. You're kind of indifferent, except for the liquidity issue. So you are taking cash that we've got available to us, and if we take that cash and we actually have a disaster and we need to borrow money, it's a lot harder to refinance at that point. So and we have very little relative debt too. So there's a liquidity consideration as well.
Correct. And my thought to this is one that I guess Tim spoke with before. This was Tim. He spoke, and this is what they decided on prior when we talked about on financing. This is where this all came from. Is I talked to Tim before he retired, and I sat with him, and he mentioned that this is the way that they want to go.
And then Matt Ward came in and gave his 2 cents when he took office.
The only thing I was thinking is, if you go this way for here, it's going to give you a little bit of time to put together what else are you going to bond and just do everything all at once, instead of sitting there and spending the fees to bond multiple times.
Yeah, well, which is fair. Yeah, but I don't even know if it's available to us at $5 million. I mean, it's a small.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very small. Yeah.
So, but who answers that question? What is the rate, and what does it look like?
The town does, there's someone that is involved in bonding with the town who reached out to because he's going to do the water. Somebody, I don't remember their name.
I don't know if those are municipal bonds, though.
Those are not, that's the WPCI.
But I think it behooves us.
Agent.
Those are revenue bonds, though. They're not GOs.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think it behooves us to not make this decision in isolation, but rather to look at what our capital needs are going to be for the next 2 or 3 years, and to, in the aggregate, to make a decision or a plan on how do we want to finance them. And, it may be a bond for all of them, but I think we should do that. And I don't know, how do we do that? Do we form a subcommittee to work with Anita and figure that out with somebody like Dave or Andy on the...
Well, one consideration is timing, because what do we need to do?
Sure. I'll give you an update.
Yeah. This should have been financed a year ago for them.
Yeah, it comes from a different source.
But that's a good question.
Okay, so as far as senior center, bids will be opened on February 6th here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They have gotten a quote for their builder's risk insurance. I had a conversation with David Lom today, this afternoon, about 5 o'clock. The only thing that we want to clarify with that insurance, we want to make sure that KERMA is actually still covering the rest of the building, because the builder's risk says it is for what is being built.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the rest of our building, we want to make sure is insured. And
You're talking about the senior center building?
Yes.
But the builder's risk insurance will cover the building during construction.
According to David, there's a clause in there that does.
That's correct. There's a clause in there.
And although the person at Builders Risk said not to worry, we do not want to take that chance.
But we're not going to take the chance, we're not going to take the chance on the basis of an oral conversation that I have with an insurance agent.
Right.
But we will take the chance on the basis of a written on a written contract with the insurance company that makes it crystal clear that the structure is covered. And that's what the insurance agent said we get, and I've communicated with David by email today, what we have to have. Certainly, we're not going to take somebody's word on the telephone, but it makes no sense. And they've already valued the building at $1.4 million and said they'd insure it to the level of 1.4. So I trust that the insurance agent is correct. I mean, it makes no sense, and you're in this business, why with a builder's risk policy they would cover the improvements but not the underlying building.
Well, you've got renovating the building, so kind of.
Well, you still got the building burns down, you know.
Yeah,
And does the insurance, is your understanding that
it should. I would hope it's not 1.4 and it's capped at 1.4.
No. The underlying structure is valued at 1.4. The total policy is for 6 something.
Right. The total amount that you're going to put into it. Yeah. Plus whatever you're renovating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a deal breaker if they're not going to cover the structure. And your idea that maybe Kerma would continue to cover the structure even though they refuse to.
That's what David asked me because his background is in insurance.
Yeah.
He said you might just want to call, and I said I would.
But back to
we're getting off
timing
track
for
the structure of the financing. We have approval. The town has approved the expenditure for the senior center.
So this is the question is bill paying, right? We're going to get a bill tomorrow, and I think the understanding is that Oline will pay the bills and then send to Lime that bill for its contribution. So the question is, can we not simply pay the bills from the general fund before we have made a definitive decision on how ultimately we're going to finance the project?
Because the money's been approved. The voters have approved us spending the money.
Right.
Yes, it's been approved.
I think if I remember the call of the meeting, it didn't say how it was going to be financed.
No.
It did not.
So that's, I guess, our job.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting is I don't think we have any time pressure based on the construction contract to rush a decision on financing our capital
You
project.
can certainly do more homework, but I just would love to. And I think Anita and I, our only concern is when the bills are coming in, we'd really like to know that there's money there to pay for it.
Well, we got $20 million in the bank.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing. We just want to know that it's been set aside. That's all.
Okay.
Because it's with the $1,250,000 grant, $500,000 grant. It's very tricky because we have to pay our portion of a bill, but then we have to bill David. He has to say he's paid us. It's a very
Before you
ballet.
Reimbursement.
Right. I can't send my portion into reimbursement. He can't send his portion into reimbursement until we're all ponied up and everybody's at the table. So it's a little bit tricky with this joint one. So we have to make sure that we're following the steps correctly so that we get reimbursed correctly.
They're paying out of the general fund, I believe.
But they have a grant.
Okay, but I'm just saying they're not
Right.
They're not financing
it
Right.
Not financing.
whatsoever.
It's just the grant reimbursement that we want to make sure that we're following the rules.
So back on the table, let me ask the question whether folks agree that we shouldn't make a standalone decision on how to finance the senior center improvements. Instead of that, we should consider the other capital projects that we have on the table and consider a broader menu. What do folks think?
I think that's prudent.
We got a lot of stuff in the next few years, and we have most of the high-level facts to be able to do, at least give us is it bigger than a bread box, smaller than an elephant, and also some high-level alternatives.
You know, I mean, to Anita's point, I don't know whether the transaction costs make sense for a $2 or $3 million bond issue, but they may for a $10 million bond issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if the market will even, I mean, a $2 million bond, who's
They're
going
not
to,
getting.
yeah, these are all
Not gonna
high-net-worth
happen.
individuals that are going to buy the muni bonds.
And, you know.
It's gonna cost you more before you.
Yeah.
So is there any discussion on that question, or do folks?
Well, just the timing of those projects as well, the timing of.
Well, and the doing of it. Who's willing to volunteer to work with Anita to figure this out?
As far as bond, I mean, you want to have somebody.
What are the capital projects on our horizon in the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, the Grassy Hoe Bridge can be looked at again, and Todd Macknick will tell you that it's probably fine for the moment. So that's that, but we can also have our engineering team come out and look at it. As you know, that's a lot of puzzle pieces to put together. And we have done a little bit of research as far as moving telephone poles, see who owns it. It's not an Eversource pole, it's a Frontier pole. And then we have to start to get approval from our neighbors and the abutters, because that is not a project that is going to be done overnight. But there are some that believe it's the way it was repaired a few years ago, that it's fine. There are others that are questioning, and I have not paid for our engineering team to go out and look at it.
But without drilling down, with any precision in terms of the pricing, what's the approximate amount of the dollars that
I can't, because the bids that we had years ago are no longer anywhere near valid. And Ed's here, he will tell you the prices of things have gone considerably up. And we will be more than happy to have someone look at it and see what they think. The condition of it is right now. Biggest project here within this building is our doors. Our doors are falling apart. And
But that's small potatoes compared to Halls Road, sewers, so
right.
All of that stuff, you just have a schedule of these are the projects.
So
here's the range that the overall project could be. Here's an estimate of what we could get.
Just remember the doors tie into our security.
Yeah, it can be part of it.
Yeah,
but
it's going to be, but it's not just the doors.
No,
It's got a whole bunch of moving.
It's one project.
For 6 years.
What?
We're talking about the doors for 6 years.
Well, we've got Eric here now, and he's had, I know he's had, I think, 2 people in to do estimates for us and get the best going, because somebody wanted to just replace doors, and he said the sills are not in good shape, and there's no reason to put a brand new door in a bad sill. So there's going to have to be some more work done.
But that's going to pale in comparison to
I know.
all the other projects.
For those of us who work in this building.
No, I'm not minimizing. I'm just saying for order of magnitude.
So do we not have a kind of standing spreadsheet of?
Yeah. We do. We do.
Okay.
But we have not reviewed it, and we were going to do capital. As you know, we've heard the bits and pieces at our meeting. On Monday night, you'll get the capital list.
Yeah, it's a good. It's actually good timing for this exercise. So, yeah.
Well, I'm
so you would like
here to be in on that discussion, only if either David or Andy joins me.
I'm happy to weigh in.
Sure.
Yeah. So one or the other of you, and we'll meet with Martha, we'll take a look at the list. We'll, again, it's not a question of getting precise quotations on doing something, but getting orders of magnitude. So
it's a priority list.
Yeah.
And we've started it.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult because it's, one of the things that we've always done here is every department has their own capital line. And when they do that, sometimes they go off and they get their own quotes, decide that, they're a priority. But now that we have Eric here, we're trying to funnel everything through Eric. If it's a building issue, if it's a facility issue, if you want new doors or if you want new windows, if you want to paint it, it should go through Eric so he can get the bidding process started. And we get 3 bids. So we are trying to do it correctly and make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So it's going to take a little bit of time. We all know as homeowners, sometimes you can't get a contractor to come when they ask you to come. So we're doing our best, and we will prioritize what we believe is the best way to go moving forward. And as far as sewers are going, I can tell you there's still not an IMA with New London, so that we are working on that as well.
And what's the status of the forgivable loan for the sewers, do you know?
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
About those sewers, the price that you have right now, the person that came back, does not include repaving or reconstruction any of the roads you did up. I asked the committee that, and it's not in that bill, and I told them, I said, well, that's really not fair. He said, that's up to the town, repave the roads. So that's not in there. That's going to be over $1 million to do all those streets. And there might even be more by the time it gets there. That's not in the budget, so I just want to let you know, because I know a lot of people don't know that. I found out from the chairman of the committee 2 years ago.
Well, we have a schedule for repaving roads. That could come down to some creative shuffling of when.
The main roads between Hartford, Swan, and Portland were just done probably 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember, we also will have to do parts of 156.
Well, and I know DOT wants to do 156.
They have already sent us a list that they will start 156, and they will do it as far as Portland Ave, which I have spoken to the WPCA, and they said that will be fine, as long as they stop at that corner. And then they can put in our bike lane, which they also promised us.
So I have one other question, though. If we're looking at some of these bigger projects that we don't know when we're going to need the money to do them, we don't know how much they're going to cost, how does that impact whether or not how we fund this, which we need money for now or in the next couple of years? I mean, would you take a municipal bond out for $10 million when you're not sure you're going to need it for 6 years? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing to do that would be is there opportunity to accelerate projects that might be further down the line.
Or I thought what Anita was talking about, you might take out a short-term note to get the senior center done, and then 2 years from now, we may have to take something else out, and then you lump those together and refinance those short-term things.
Right. So that's my point, is it doesn't really impact the senior center.
That's exactly right.
I think this is a good exercise, but
I think you're both right. And indeed, that may be the process. I just personally feel uncomfortable. It's like, in your own personal budget. Okay, I'm going to spend $30,000 on a new car, but I haven't thought about what the house needs tomorrow. Right? And I want to get my arms around what our capital expenses are in gross terms before feeling comfortable to commit to something today.
Well, we'll do the best we can, but if we don't have quotes on some of those large projects,
we don't need quotes.
Okay.
We just need
ideas.
No, don't be dismissive of it, ma'am, please. You need an educated guess. That's what you need.
Yes.
And so, and for example, this is $2 million. That's a huge chunk of change that we've got in the bank. It deserves a little bit more consideration than tonight. Let's vote on $2 million, right?
Well, I agree. We need to look at this in terms of how are we best using our money in terms of investing it and making money off of our money, and how are we then...
Would you be prepared to vote tonight for $2 million for the senior center out of the general fund based on what you just saw?
You can't vote tonight.
I can't.
No. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not saying that I would.
Okay.
What I'm saying is
we should do it for the exercise, right?
Exercise is very important, but I'm not sure that it really impacts this all that much.
And you may well
This decision.
Right in the end.
Right. But I think yes, the idea of having a schedule of the projects that we have coming into the future, and you're right, a back of the envelope kind of estimate on the cost and when it might happen is extremely important to have.
Okay.
I think that's the fact that we kind of can't give it. You can't just give it to us now. It doesn't exist.
Well, it does exist.
On a piece of,
A lot of it exists on.
Yeah, we need to pull it all
capital
together.
it needs to be put together. Okay, it needs to,
Yeah.
but it needs, right.
Yeah.
Needs to
This
be pulled
isn't,
together.
the senior center's not on that in terms of where the money's gonna come from.
Right.
Well, and then just looking at our next agenda item,
Yeah.
that
I think before that, I would like to understand how we decide that something is a capital project. Obviously, these multi-million-dollar projects are capital projects. But how far do you step down? I mean, there were things in the capital fund years ago, like the play set for $278,000 was in the capital fund. That's an
It's
order
not,
of magnitude different than these multi-million-dollar projects, and I don't feel like those two can really live in the same spot.
There's a common sense answer and then there's an accounting answer, and I don't have a perfect answer to either of them, but it isn't a question of how much money does the thing cost, but rather what is its useful life. And it's a capital item if it's going to continue to be used in the future, as opposed to an operating expense for something that is recurrent and that's going to get exhausted.
Or repair
in a
and
year.
maintenance. Repairs and maintenance versus capital is the accounting concept.
And also, it all depends on your fixed assets, the thresholds that you hold for them to be considered, like a building, if I'm not mistaken, building improvements is like anything under $20,000. It has no value. So you can't put it on the fixed asset list or depreciate it under $20,000. That was per an ordinance that's in town.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
I think there's other parts. Machinery is something about 5,000. Vehicles are another amount. You have different amounts for different things out there, and it's supposed to be that's your threshold. Anything under that is really it's not considered capital for the fact is it's not depreciable. It could be a fixed asset, but it's non-depreciable. It's not.
So some of the things, the capital funds, are some of the things that we finance over a number of years. Fire trucks.
Right.
You
And
know,
that's what
we
we
put $150,000 a year into the apparatus fund.
Grassy Hill Bridge.
Right.
Like,
Tennis courts at Cross Lane.
Yep.
That was funded over 2
years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So there was a capital fund, Park and Rec, for Cross Lane.
the playground had
The
a similar
playground
fund.
270, that's
That
definitely,
had a
that's
similar
depreciable.
fund.
You know, but it's more of, all right, we're going
And
to put
it's a
this
lot of-
money in the fund earmarked for this capital project, and it may be a couple of years.
And it's a lot of
Scroll along.
one-time expenses that you don't want in your regular budget.
Yeah, they're non-recurring expenses, basically.
Because it
It's non-recurring.
skews the regular budget if you put them in as an operating expense.
But for
All of those
purposes
funds
of
are
this.
separate from the surplus, is that correct?
Say what?
All those funds, the
Yes,
dog fund,
yes,
are all, they're separate from the surplus.
right.
Yes.
Just wanted to say that for purposes of tonight's discussion, we're not concerned about the smaller capital expenses.
Right.
It's the big projects
Yeah.
that we have to worry about. Okay, any other comments or discussion on this? Can we move on to the Swanbrook crib discussion? I wonder if anybody here knows anything about that?
Yeah, I do.
What's up?
So as you know, we replaced the crib in April, and for a tune of about $55,000. And I heard you say at a finance one, this will be it, right?
Maybe buzzwords.
It was not it. So after December 18th storm, which took out a good chunk of it, and the other two storms after it, we've incurred more damage. And Keith Nielsen met me there from DACO, and we went down to examine. I mean, I've been there with all the flooding. I have been there sometimes days at a time, standing in booths, checking things out and talking to members of Miami Beach or Hawks Nest, saying, I am here, I am in the water, I know it's flooded, I know you have some issues. Jim Lampos and Judy has been down there. We've walked Hartford Avenue in the water. Jim has been down there in the middle of the night. Keith from DACO actually was there during the storm on the 18th watching what was happening to the crib. He said, as an engineer, you only learn from watching. something fall apart, what was wrong with the design. But these storms are significantly stronger than we've ever seen before. The wave action, the people who live at the beach say it is just unbelievable, the change. And, you know, we have our people, George Finley, Paula Rosell, they're right there, they're right at the water's edge. Scott Bullinger, they're all there sending me text pictures. Hello! So the crib is just part of the problem, because Swan Brook starts from beyond Peppermint Ridge, works its way down. And when you get down into the Miami Beach area, they have made their own little backyard, what would we call it? It's just they funneled Swan Brook into this one area. Some people have built walls. It's almost like going to Venice. You just move down. And others have left it rough and it's just land. There are people who have not maintained it. They've let trees grow in it. We did clean it out with Monster Vac on one neighbor's property of Biscayne, and that has helped the cross lane, and we haven't had a flood there. So that's a positive. But how to go forward? And I've said to both Miami Beach and Hawks Nest, from the top of 156 to the beach, the crib is not my problem. It's yours. But we need to work on the solution together, because that part of it plays into the crib and how we handle it. So Thursday, I'm having tomorrow night. I'm having a meeting with some of the members just to begin some discussions. Keith had provided me a proposal for $10,000 to redo the application for the Corps of Engineers and the DEEP to get it going. I have not signed off on that. I did show it to Jude and to Jim. We have not voted on it. I wanted to wait until I heard from the people at the beach on how we're going to proceed. Rebuilding that exact structure, and that's the only thing we could do at this point in time, it would have to be a little different in the fact that the piling, now we've lost piling, so we have to go in and plumb those in. So it's going to be more expensive. Keith estimates somewhere about $100,000 to recreate it. A new application for a new department will take almost 3 years to get through DEEP and the Corps of Engineers. Ed will tell you, because he goes down to check, I go down to check. Low tide is the best time to go. If you've never been, we can do field trips. But it's been running well even after the storms. The high tides definitely are its worst time. And there are people who think that it's actually pushing water through the pipes up and flooding, but I don't believe that the force of that water could get through those pipes and up and flood that area. But Jim, in the middle of the night, found that it was flooding. I can't remember the name of the two streets. Do you remember the name of the two streets?
About the crib.
Clifton and something else.
It's like Clark said, it's been, you know,
Come up here.
Come up here.
We lost a 20-foot section up the town garage. I set it up there, and there are 2 poles and more that have to come out. This week I opened low tide. I was down there at the storms, and I've been monitoring it. The 2 storms we had from the road, the water filled the whole beach. And then the water was coming in from the south off the sound was so bad that you could literally see it pushing everything right out of the crib. I feel bad for the people in the beach area, but they have to understand that we can't beat Mother Nature. We can't.
Nope.
And those 2 storms, you had one storm, 8 inches of, 4 inches of rain in 12 hours. The next one you got 2.5 and 8, 2 days. There's water coming out where I've never seen water before. But like Martha said, they have to clean those ditches that run to that pond. I mean, That's slowing everything down. It stops the water. There's a head wall in there that's starting to cave over. If it caves, it's going in the brook. That's not the town's responsibility.
Nope.
I mean,
There's two actually.
but that's not our responsibility.
The town didn't build it, right? The homeowners did.
Yes, they built different.
It runs right behind our houses.
And somewhere in one of their
The
deeds.
other question we have is the brook. Now they want to build 250 Shore Road, this monster.
Well, they
We'll have an overflow pipe that the state's okay for it. It's going to come all into the state road and run into a drain that runs into Swan Brook. How much more water are we going to feed this thing? But the town all of a sudden now is at fault. No, we're not.
Well, they know that we're not at fault. Mother Nature played a huge role in this. But what we have to do is, they do pay taxes, and we cannot purposely help flood their property, but we can try to. The exit has been ours since 1940. We started it, and we have to figure out a way. But if it's going to be it's going to be a better design with a more permanent feature, which will not wash away in a storm, then it's going to cost much more money. And I told them we can't fund it alone. We cannot be the sole funders of something that's going to keep their property safe. So that's a bigger discussion down the road.
But what you're suggesting is that there is a better solution and a more permanent solution. It just costs a bunch of money.
One of the other,
maybe there would be state or federal funds to subsidize it.
Sure. I think it's Old Colony, or was it Lime Shores, did their own, and they did get federal funding for it, and they funded it.
They did, but
say again, Ted?
They got funding for it.
Yes, they got federal funding for theirs.
And they cleaned their ditch all the way down behind all the houses.
Yeah.
But if we were to pursue that, we need DEP permission that we can't get for 3 years.
That's what it's running about, because DEP is not really happy about limiting stormwater into Long Island Sound.
In that direction, what do we do for 3 years? Now, you kind of suggested, because you go down there with your shovel and
I did
put out, that the water is getting out into the Sound okay without the crib today. So my question is, can we leave the status quo for 3 years?
Well, I don't know. That's my meeting tomorrow. But there's definitely safety issues that are going to have to be addressed before the summer comes, because we have to look for the safety of children.
Right. The remnants of the crib would need to.
We have to figure out how we fix that. And so there's the very short-term risk, then there's the medium fix, like to rebuild what we had, which Ed and I question whether it was really actually working. I mean, actually doing its job, because it was clogged 3 or 4 times after it was built, and then once it came down, flowing really well.
These storms have been unbelievable. I mean, I went for a walk at Rocky Neck a few weeks ago and walked the boardwalk there along the beach. And they just rebuilt that after a storm a year ago. And, well, it's back in place, but in one section, there's a 3-foot drop from the boardwalk to the sand.
Right. You used to be able to just walk from the boardwalk to the sand.
So the storms came in and pulled that sand out, and just, it's moving it around in all different directions. We don't control that. It's going to continue to happen.
This sounds like a silly question, but I assume there's no insurance at a reasonable rate that can...
astronomical.
Yeah.
I can't see anybody's going to touch that crib for us.
Yeah.
Not unless you have a lot of money.
Ed, do you think there's a way to reinstall the crib in a way that would better withstand the... No?
No. It's going to happen again.
So it seems to me that...
I hate to put $100,000 into it in April and find out next July or August we have a hurricane, and that $100,000 just washes right away again. And so we really have to think about what we're going to do. We have to come up with a solution to make it safe for summer, and that it will do the job that we need it to do on a high storm, to get rid of storm water in those areas. But We cannot spend money foolishly to know that it will just...
We already did.
Well, it sounds like you have landowners that have to do their part to keep things clear so the water continues to move through their area, so maybe it keeps the sand from coming into the...
Well, they always said to me that one of the pipes was plugged, and I tried to explain to them, I said, it's not plugged. I said, yes, it has sand in it. You don't have enough pressure in the back to push it out, because it's almost at dead level, that pipe. Well, after that storm, both those pipes had so much, they were full bore, and I mean, they couldn't dump anymore. Martha was down there, so, because one time they wanted me to clean the pipe with sand. I go, why are we going to do that? I said, I'm going to clean it. The first high tide, it's going to have sand back in it. It's just not designed for.
And they'll call sometimes and say it's clogged, and I'll say, just wait the tide cycle to go through, and sure enough, by the time high tide goes out, it's clear. And they're like, oh, it did clear out. But they called me in the middle of a storm, and I pulled my husband and Katie Walaka and her husband and my son, and we went down with shovels, and they were like, what are you going to do? I said, well, you said it's low tide. I said, I'm going to try to dig out the beginning of the thing. But, of course, by the time I got there, it was already clearing itself out. So I was like, okay, don't have to do this.
I'm not an engineer, and I'd like to talk to one. Yeah. I've always thought that by putting that crib in there, you have formed like a 52-inch pipe, and Mother Nature drives everything into it, and then it can't get rid of it fast enough.
You get clogs on both sides when you have
What I mean, when, if it gets it in there, and when low tide comes, it can't rush it out enough, and especially if there's not enough pressure in the pond or the pipe to push it out. Now it's not plugging because when it comes out, it's doing this.
And
then you get in.
We have an expert consultant, an engineering consultant to advise us on how to solve this problem.
Well,
Baco.
So aside from how to pay for whatever's happening, you have a flood and erosion control board now.
It just started.
So
will start.
So should that be the board that is having these discussions with DEEP and all of that, and the recommendation from flood and erosion control?
Well, we have a flood and erosion control board who's going to have to come up to
Brandy.
This is definitely going to be on their radar.
Yeah.
I think right now, because as you know, the crib has been one of my little pet projects over the last two years. So I'm going to start those conversations with Miami and Hawks Nest.
Right.
And then they've got to do some of their own working. They have Connecticut Water down there doing some work. Right where Connecticut Water, that's where they're seeing an overflow onto their streets that's not even close to the beach. It's Clifton, and I cannot remember the other name of the street. But anyways, that's where Jim was in the middle of the night. And he said, it's just coming up. And he said, something is wrong in that culvert. And he said, you've got to address it there. Right. So that was a whole new area that had been flooded. Usually it used to just be the Miami parking lot and perhaps Mr. Manafort's parking lot across the street from his house. But, I mean, I was standing in the Sound View parking lot, and half of it was underwater by 2.5 feet.
I've seen water like that.
Yeah, we've never.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a good crash course for flood and erosion control.
Martha, to put another temporary fix in there for $100,000, you might as well, no one will throw it.
So
I agree with that.
We'll have some conversations. I'll have updates for you, but just know it's probably on the horizon. We may have to do some type of a fix for it.
The Board of Finance is pleased that it's not our problem to figure out.
I'm hearing that. Okay, so I'll keep you posted.
Yes.
And in the meantime, if you'd all pray for no more storms, I would really appreciate that as well.
Okay, assuming there's no more Swan Book crib discussion, we're on to other business. Anybody have any other business? I have one other business, which has to do with minutes. Michelle is a wonderful minute taker, and historically, and I'm just going to say what I understand, and Michelle, you can correct me, after Michelle does an initial draft of the minutes, somebody, and over the past several years it was Tim, the first select person, has reviewed them before they're then distributed in draft to the Board of Finance. I don't think the first selectman is the right person to give a second look, and our first select woman agreed to do it. So I think that it's better that a member of the Board of Finance who had attended the meeting for which the minutes were drafted does that. And then the question is, do we have volunteers? How can we kind of staff that job? And, one way to do it would be just somebody raise your hand and say, yeah, I'm happy to do it. And then when you get tired, you say, I'm tired, and somebody else does it.
How about we take turns and just go down the list?
Does that happen with other boards and commissions? Because not what I've been on. I didn't even know that Tim reviewed the minutes before they got to us. I mean, I think it's...
Isn't that what the holdup is in getting minutes on the website?
You're not following procedures. Your minutes are supposed to be up, especially if you're taking a vote. Your vote is supposed to be up in 24 hours. Minutes can go up in, I think it's 4 to 7 days after. Right. And look, I'm not always perfect either on mine, but correcting them and getting them up, especially for spelling errors, I think it's very important. You can put them up. They're supposed to go up in draft form because at your meeting, that's when you make your corrections and that's noted and moves on. But it is supposed to be up more quicker than they are.
So I guess, is this why the minutes have not been going up on the website?
Yes.
I've noticed that they're, not just for this board, but that for a lot of boards, minutes are missing.
Yes. I think draft minutes are draft minutes.
Well, but to your point, Dave, if I can guess at what it is, I agree with you that we shouldn't have a second secretary editing the minutes for substance. I'm just thinking of a copy editor to edit them for spelling errors and grammar and language.
Can I jump in on this?
Go ahead.
FOI purposes and posting? When I've been taught that, and I do the minutes for the board, for the building committee, that you write the minutes, you submit them to everybody that needs them, is supposed to get them, and then if there are corrections, like you've been making to the minutes before you're done, that those minutes corrections are recorded at the next meeting.
No, we do that.
If there's anything substantive, I think you need to rely on your recording secretary to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
And just submit the minutes, and then you as a body correct them the next meeting, you make corrections. Yeah. That's what I think.
No, well, that's what we do, Jeremy.
The most thing that I think that you need to look for is anything financial, or any number, because you don't want to see something reported as 13 million when it was only 13,000.
I guess, but we don't have the benefit of the tape or any of that stuff, So we may have some notes or whatnot. I mean, we're happy to rely on Michelle to do the minutes and post them as draft, and then we read them and
I think if she sends them to one person and they just do a glance over, and if they don't have any major issues.
But Jerry, what's your comment?
Well, little corrections like grammar or punctuation or something, that's easy for you to correct. If you give her minutes to another person, and that person makes a substantive change that was not discussed during the meeting, and that comes out in the minutes, you're going to have a problem.
Right. Well, we have the same problem if the secretary who took the minutes made an incorrect comment and included something that didn't take place at the meeting. I'm not arguing with you, although I should. It's not really your job to tell us how to keep our minutes.
I'm just saying...
What I am saying is if there's something of substance incorrect in the minutes, or if there's something of a grammatical error in the minutes, when the board reviews the draft minutes, we correct them. And I don't know if that process is going to be exacerbated if there's a second view, but I didn't intend that the second look would be for substance as opposed to proofreading, copy reading. But I raise it because I wanted to see what folks think. Dave doesn't think it's a good idea. What others think?
So
Andy?
I didn't realize Tim was reviewing it either. I mean, I didn't realize that. But if Michelle posts them and sends them out to us at the same time and we notice something, draft minutes still, we noticed something like the 13 million that should be 1,300. Because they're still in draft form, if somebody pointed that out, can that be changed?
Well, they're not, I was sending something off as draft minutes, and Vicki told me I could not mark it as draft. But I had to be, those were the minutes as stated at that point in time, and then when you change them at the next meeting, the corrections are noted.
Okay.
And that's what she told me to do. She said, don't put draft on them anymore, because that's not what you're supposed to do.
Well, they are unapproved, but the point is they become public. So the question is, can they be circulated internally before they're posted on the website and become public? And you know, that's the issue.
I would think they could be, but you're still looking for that 24-hour turnaround on
well,
the
that's
votes.
different. That's on votes.
I think this can be it can be a very simple form. Just motion made, for what, who made it, and this vote.
And this is just a suggestion, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, but if Michelle were to say, send the minutes out to all of us 24 hours before they're getting posted on the website, and in more of a like, if you see a problem, let me know. If I don't hear from you, they're going up.
Yep. And then you can still change them at the next meeting.
Right, we could still change them at the next meeting, but it gives us 24 hours if we open up, if someone goes, says 13 million instead of 13,000.
Just don't reply all because it's a meeting.
Right, right. Reply just to Michelle.
Yep.
What do others think?
I think that's good.
Good solution.
Let's send them out to everybody.
Don't hear from us.
You all have 24 hours. If I don't hear from you, that
Then
is,
it's our fault.
then it's our fault.
Frankly,
Reply to you.
the statutory procedure,
don't get your emails.
the statutory procedure, I think, is extremely cumbersome for the reader, for the public. You have to look at a subsequent set of minutes
We went
to
through
determine whether a prior set of minutes has been amended.
Yeah.
So at least if you do it this way, then we can minimize the confusion.
When the finals go up, can the preliminary come down to?
No,
They don't get changed.
not supposed to
That's
be a
the thing.
preliminary.
The minutes don't
The
get
minutes
changed.
never get amended.
So the
The changes
public-
that we made
Yeah, the
tonight,
public, as BJ just pointed out, now has to deal
they
with
have to look at,
multiple versions.
Right,
for the
they-
December 12th minutes that we just, was it December
Yeah.
12th, whatever the December minutes
Yeah.
that we just approved with changes, those December minutes are not being changed.
You have to
They have to
read
look at the January
Yeah.
minutes to see what we changed.
So basically, the December minutes that come out and are posted on the website are, as Andy says, unapproved,
But
and the reader has to look at the subsequent
See
minutes
what-
when they
a
are
month
approved
later.
to see if there have been any changes.
And I'm sure that, I mean, I do go through the board of selectmen. I mean, I've got 7 pages to go through. I'm on page 3, but I'm getting there. But it's tedious because you do want to make sure, especially people's names spelled correctly. I think that's very important when it goes out. And a secretary who's not familiar with the names of people, it's hard for them to get the spelling correct. So I think those are important to go through. And sometimes you are listening to a tape, and tapes can be hard to listen to because you got to stop it as you go. So we'll do the best we can, but I think if she sends it out and if you can just get back to her in a day or two, we'll be doing better than we were. Yeah. And every improvement we make is a little bit better.
So to comply with FOIA, and I know that you're doing your best, you're gonna get out when there's any votes. You're gonna get the votes out within 24 hours, and then we want to post the minutes within a week. Okay. Any other business? Madam Selectwoman?
Well, we've talked about most of what my update, but just to let you know that I believe the budget process has been informative. Those of you who have been there, and we had food the second time, so it even made it better because 6 hours was a bit much. But I really appreciate all of the Board of Finance members who have come to listen and to given their time over the last 2 sessions, and we have one more on Monday night at 5. And we'll try to have you at home by 11. We have gone over 15 various town departments, and I think the most interesting thing is that Anita has picked up on so many mistakes, things that were done incorrectly in the past. And I think that I remember a large discussion last year with Dave Roberge about his $120,000 grant, which should never be. Remember, we had a discussion. Well, why are we putting it in the budget? And he said, "I won't spend it but you're going to put it in the budget." Well, Anita said, "No, it's a grant, so it shouldn't go in the bid. So there's a whole separate category that it's supposed to go into." So those types of things are we're learning. She's learning, but she's learning from a process that had some flaws, so she's trying to pick up on those as well. But we've had a lot of time to question, research history. Anita's gone back, done research to find out what's what, and a thorough review of the material. One of the things that our staff has been looking at is to rotate and digitize the contracts that we have with various vendors, and also to digitize our licenses for our software. Also know when those will be up for renewal so that we can set up a actual digital format to know when things are coming up for review. Those will be kept in a centralized place in our town server, but they'll also be kept, paper copies will be kept with Katie Balaka so that anyone coming in will be able to find things. Some of those things we've also looked because we think contract pricing may benefit the town in certain areas, so we're doing some homework on that. We've never had a contract for our oil or our propane, and we pay market rate, fluctuates as it goes. As we all know as homeowners, sometimes those contracts are great, sometimes they're not so great. It depends on what happens to your gambling. So we have to just look to see what we might be able to get from other vendors. We won't make any decisions unless we pass it through the Board of Selectmen and here as well.
I thought we did have an oil agreement that was tied in with Region 18 because of their volume is so much greater.
Yeah.
And we piggybacked off their contract.
Well,
at some point in time.
Anita talked to our oil vendor now, and I'm not going to name names for the purposes, but they said that they just have a price that they cap it at. So we pay the capped price, but if it's lower, we still pay the capped price.
I know it was historically, it's always been with the schools, whatever the schools have done.
Didn't Anita say she had talked, I may be confusing issues. Did you talk to Holly over at the schools about the oil, or was that something else?
No, I talked to the vendor.
Okay.
Actually called the vendor on that.
But I mean, that's,
and they said that
was it electricity or was it oil?
It was oil.
Yeah.
When the price goes down.
We will check, but
If not, we should.
yes, I know.
I mean, with the volume, and they're sticking with
We're
oil.
paying the prices on the web.
Anyway, we're trying to consolidate as much as possible to save money.
There were a couple departments that had their own deals with gas, heating oil, whatever.
Which is, trying to rein everybody in. We're one town. So anyway, we're working on that. Senior Center had, as I said, received the builder's risk policy. We talked about that, and bids will be opened on February 6th. We talked about the crib. Beach associations, though, have come to us and asked us to look and to renegotiate their stipends for the next fiscal year. They said it is stayed at the same capped rate, and then it's divided amongst them. I think it's $71,700, and they are coming to our meeting on Monday night to discuss that. So, Ferry Road Sidewalks, I have kept him as the chair of that committee. He's going to see it through, boy. But I did speak to Wade Thomas, our engineer over at Jacobson's today, Tim prepared a timeline before he went away the last time, and Wade informed me that the DOT should be issuing a letter soon so we can start the bidding process. That will put us right on time. Tim wanted bids out by February 9th. So if all that comes through, we should be on the timeline that Tim wanted us to be on, and that will go through. We are looking at capital projects for every department. There are some things that the maintenance of this building. We're finding like we haven't painted some parts of this building since 2007. We've painted others much more frequently. But yes, the main part of the building, the hallway between our offices have not been painted since 2007. So when the light is dim, it's not just because. But we're not asking for those things to be done, but we're just looking at it and saying, and Eric's trying to get a handle on when things we're taking care of. One of the things that I do know is coming up is that we're going to have to probably come to you for some special appropriation in March is the filtration system for the ductwork, the heating. The company bought those for us in bulk. We only have enough to get through March, and then we're going to have to buy some more. They're very expensive. So Eric is working out some pricing on those. It might be cheaper for us to buy them directly ourselves instead of going through our vendor. But what Eric would like to do is store them here and not be waiting for a vendor to deliver them here. So we'll get out to know on that. So we're all learning a lot about our building and our place and what's what and trying our best for the town of Old Lyme. Any questions? Anything you want us to bring to you next time that we didn't bring this time?
If one of us was interested in going on a field trip to go look at the crib.
With a towel.
I would be happy to meet. I would be happy to meet you there.
It's tomorrow, right? You're going tomorrow, you said?
Right, is it raining tomorrow? Oh no, our meeting tomorrow night is just going to be on Zoom.
Very rainy.
Just to talk about
Friday after.
Friday's a better day, the sun's supposed to come out later in the day.
maybe Friday.
Rain is a better day.
Oh, skiing.
Well, and let's, we try not to say the word rain anymore. One of the things that
Could we do it on a weekend to accommodate
Yeah.
people who work?
no, anybody can go anytime. You can walk. You just go down and park at Hawks Nest Beach, and you walk down and look at the low tides because that's your best time to go. You'll see it. It's right there in the water. It's pretty big, and there are two pipes. There are two pipes that come out, and then if you go to the top of the beach in the Phragmites, there's a pond. It's not really large. It's probably about the size of this 1/3 of this table. And that's where the water enters from Hartford Avenue and various places and ends up, and then it goes down the two pipes. One of the pipes has a grate on it, one of it doesn't. And I go down and rake the Phragmites out that it floated in because you don't want them to get into the pipe because they may not get all the way down.
That's a ballad, Arthur.
Nope. You know what? If you could see Tim when he was rolling fire hose across that beach so that we could power out, monster back that out at 7:15 in the morning, and I met him down. He's carrying rolls of fire hose across. If he can do that, I can certainly get down and rake out the Phragmites. But, it's sort of a pet project. We want to keep it clean. We want to keep it going. And if it saves flooding, then it's worth every minute. And it's sort of, you get to go to the beach. January, you get to go to the beach.
In January.
In January. It's beautiful. There's a lot of people down there. You'd be surprised.
We'll do a cold plunge later.
There you go. But yeah, if you have anything that you would like us to hear about, if there's any capital projects that you know that were sort of put on hold, that you would like to know their update and where they are, certainly send us a list of those capital projects so we make sure that they're on the list, that we haven't forgotten anything. But
I'll reach out and schedule a meeting for you and me and Dave and Randy and kind of get together a list.
if you think of something in the middle of the night, just send.
Okay.
Have you put this on? Have you put that on? But I will tell you that I am concerned about the safety of this building as far as those doors because Michelle will tell you they're getting harder and harder to close and keep locked. And Eric's already made a few maintenance issues on them, but it's very difficult
Are the doors on this new section or the old section?
The old section, but these are not.
These aren't in great shape.
These aren't in great shape. Down below aren't in great shape. And that side door, as you go out, that needs to go into Don Bugby's old office, that door is the culprit most of the nights if you can't set the alarm. That's the door that is not shut. And you have to, the best way to do it is go outside and just push it shut. Don't go down through that dark hallway. But it's, and we are, by the way, we're having a spring cleaning day, and we are closing town hall for it because there's enough garbage in that basement. I need every hand on deck, and I've told my managers today, we are all cleaning that out. This cannot continue. I mean, we have typewriters from, I swear, 1970 down there.
Yeah, the yard sale, right?
Over to White Elephant.
What?
Take them over to White Elephant.
I don't know what we're going to do. I thought we could start a museum.
Yeah.
But we'd have to add on.
Yeah.
We've sent a lot, and I have to really and truly send kudos to Kim Groves and to Craig Bonatti upstairs. They have done an absolutely fantastic job of teaching. Years and years of plans. And Craig, because he works with the state, called up, found out how long we had to keep things, and the things that just go to digitized format. They have digitized everything, and they have a format, and they've gotten rid of things. And kudos also to Anita, where we used to only get a shredder in here every couple of weeks. She went to InfoShred. We have a contract with them now, and they pick it up like 1/10 of what we used to pay. And so it's just great that they're here and doing that, and everybody's chipping in to find more productive ways to save money, although we don't always copy on both sides.
Thank you. Public comment. Jerry.
Yeah.
Sure.
First of all, I want to congratulate all of you who are new to this board. Thank every single one of you for the ongoing support that we've had for this project. I just have a little bit of a concern, not just as the chair of the building committee, but as a member of the center and a taxpayer. I understand and respect the need to grasp the scope of the projects that you have coming down the pike. But ironically, 4 years, 4 months, and 4 days ago, we started this project. And the voters did approve the funding for this project on June 20th, 2023. And I'd like to be able to reassure our committee, the construction management company that has already started its work, and whatever we need to do to pay bills, that the bills that are going to start coming in are going to be paid. Okay. We pledged to look for grants. We were able to secure $1 million in STEEP grants between the two towns. There are going to be things that are stipulated by STEEP, though, that will not be reimbursable under their exceptions. And those are some of the bills that may be coming down the pike a little bit sooner, like special inspections. Any engineering fees will not be reimbursable under STEEP. So as much as I appreciate the idea that you got to get your heads around what's coming down the horizon, we've been on the horizon for 4 years, 4 months, and 4 days. And if there is a priority list that's generated for this, I'm kind of hoping that it's our turn to maybe be near the top of the list to actually solidify how this is going to be paid for.
Well,
okay. No, I get that if a bill comes in, a check can be possibly written to pay a bill. But I've asked since June of 2023, I've asked repeatedly, how is this going to be funded? Is it going to be financed? Is surplus going to be used? I've asked it repeatedly of our former first select person. And I guess when Newfield actually opens the bids on February 6th, that they've gone out to bid for the trades, for this project, and we also meet with them to finalize the GMP and their fees, which are still negotiable at this point, and open-ended, that we have the reassurance that this isn't going to be delayed any further than it already has been. There were things that were out of our control, so the delays with steep,
But let me try to put your mind at ease.
yeah, please, that's what I'm asking for.
Right.
I'm
Normally, public comment isn't for purposes of a discussion, but I think it's important that we clarify something. You should not, I'm on the building committee, the building committee shouldn't be concerned with how the town pays the bills. It should only be concerned that the town will pay the bills. And it's my understanding, but anybody at the table who disagrees, chime up, that the town has, $20 million in the bank, and it has the cash and the will to pay the bills as they come in prior to making a decision on the ultimate financing of the project.
Yeah, okay.
That was said earlier in the meeting when you were here.
Right.
And the taxpayers voted for the town to spend the money.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
I mean, the town's behind it.
Right.
And as I asked the question, and it did not say at the town meeting how the bill, or on the ballot, how the bills were going to be paid. It did not say we were bonding it. It did not say we were doing this. It didn't say. The town will figure out the best way. Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance will figure out what makes the most sense for the town. But short term, bills are going to get paid.
Yeah, because...
And long-term, too.
Right, yeah, right.
This determination of how it gets
Funded.
paid or financed has no bearing whatsoever on the project schedule.
Good. Well, as a taxpayer, I totally get what you're trying to do, and I appreciate that. You need to investigate all the options that actually benefit the taxpayers of this town. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I just was...
Not to worry.
You know me, I worry. But at the same time, I just want to thank you again for the ongoing support. We're thrilled. We hope to break ground in the first week in March, hopefully, if everything goes well. And actually, because that's the latter part of the winter, we're not as concerned about the delays that we've had as much as we can figure out we can actually accelerate the construction process, because we're going to be on the warmer side of winter for concrete.
Right.
Thank you.
Having postponed the start until spring. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.